Hello, this is Keith, welcoming you to the 2040th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline the 3rd of March 2016. The readers this week are Sally, Colin, Janet and Keith, with Robin on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, under their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Ferdinand Bouillon and Harry Breur, and is performed by Jean-Jacques Perry. It's used with his kind permission. Local stories include Blaze Destroys Warehouse and Ex-Vicar Guilty of Child Abuse. A couple of special news items this week. The Enfield Macular Disease Support Group meets on the second Wednesday of every month from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Trinity Church Hall, Gentleman's Row, Enfield EN2 6AN. The meetings are open to anyone affected by central vision loss. Carers are welcome too. For further details, please contact Alan Newson on 020 8886 5659. That's Alan Newson on 020 8886 5659. Please note also that Enfield Vision has moved offices. They are now based at Community House, 311 4 Street, Edmonton N9 OPZ. That's Community House, 311 4 Street, Edmonton N9 OPZ. They also have a new telephone number which is 0208 373 6260. That's 0208 373 6260. If you are experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and she will be pleased to help you. That's Diane de Jersey and her phone number is 020 8805 6578. Now Janet will read the first item of local news.
A warehouse was destroyed in Enfield after a huge fire engulfed it. The fire was started around 2 a.m. in an industrial yard on Whitewebb's Lane, with heavy smoke filling the sky over junctions 24 and 25 of the M25. A total of 10 fire engines and 72 firefighters from Enfield, Edmonton and Dagenham were called out to tackle the blaze. The warehouse, which is said to have been multi-use, included the manufacture of tyres and broom handles, was completely destroyed in the fire, with 8 cars, 7 forklift trucks, 6 lorries and 3 caravans also badly damaged. Firefighters had to remove 35 propane gas cylinders from the site and evacuate 2 men who both escaped uninjured. Crews will not be able to search the site until a metal superstructure is torn down. Ian Smith, station manager of Dagenham Fire Brigade, said, "Because the building had collapsed on itself, we could only fight the fire from outside the warehouse. It would have been dangerous to go into the building in case the rest of it came down. We used a claw on the end of a JCB to pull out the site and level the walls, which were the main issue, and allowed us to tackle the last of the small little hot pockets of burning. We have not been able to investigate the site fully yet, but apart from the 2 people this morning, there's no sign of anyone." Residents living nearby were woken up as fire engines raced to the scene at 2 a.m. One neighbour said, "One minute we were asleep, and the next everyone was out of their house wondering what was happening." Another neighbour said he'd heard explosions coming from the site around 1:30. He said there were flames around 100 foot high. Initially we thought it was spurs going up. The site continued to emit smoke well into the afternoon, which was said to be due to embers. Drivers were asked to take extra care in the morning rush hour as crews tackled the last remaining vestiges of the fire. The cause is not yet known.
A former Anglican vicar is facing a possible jail sentence after admitting sexual assaults on a young boy at his Enfield vicarage in the 1970s. Leonard Skinner who was a vicar at St Peter's Church in Vera Avenue, Grange Park, between January 1970 and May 1980, began the abuse when the youngster was 12 years old. He is to be sentenced at Blackfriars Crown Court on Wednesday, March 23rd, having pleaded guilty at Highbury Magistrates Court last month to 2 counts of indecent assault on a boy under 14 and 2 counts of indecent assault on a boy under 16. The court heard that Skinner's abuse of the boy spanned 3 years between January 1972 and June 1975, and he committed the indecent assaults on numerous occasions after having befriended the child. Allegations were reported to the police in October 2015 by a person other than the victim, and detectives from the Met's Police Sexual Offence Exploitation and Child Abuse Command investigated. Skinner, who now lives in Tyne and Wear in North East England, was interviewed under caution in November last year and charged last month. Detective Constable John Ritzimer said Skinner used his role in a position of trust as well as his friendly demeanour to gain access to his victim. I would like to pay tribute to the courage of the victim in speaking out against Skinner. It was his testimonial that secured the charges and enabled this case to be brought to court. In a statement, the Church of England Diocese of London safeguarding team said, "We are aware that the Reverend Leonard Skinner, a former member of the clergy in London, has pleaded guilty to several counts of indecent assault against a child. These are appalling crimes, and our thoughts and prayers go out to his victims. We treat all abuse allegations with the utmost seriousness and are working closely with the authorities on this case, as well as providing support to those affected by Leonard Skinner's actions." The statement added, "Prior to this current police investigation, the diocese had no record of any previous allegations being made about him."
Taxpayers will now pay an extra £20 a year each after Enfield Council raised council tax as part of their budget for 2016. This means that a Band D council taxpayer will now pay £1,420 per year. Cuts to young people's services were also approved, which will see several branches of the Enfield Youth Service shut down in order to save £1.7 million. Council leader Doug Taylor said they had been forced into cuts by licensed looting from the government. This includes after-school clubs for pupils aged 11 and over, life skills courses, and education training and employment services. The extra tax costs include a contribution dedicated to pay for adult social care. Councillor Taylor claimed they are attempting to defend people from reductions in funding from central government, referred to as grant damping, of around £10 million per year. He said, "This is the most difficult of difficult years. Increasing costs and increasing demands with decreasing income. Public service funding is being taken to 1930s levels. This does not just hurt the most vulnerable, but every resident of Enfield. It is either hypocrisy or stupidity or both for the Conservatives to attack the council for the cuts when it comes from the Conservative central government. The grant damping is licensed looting, and the disparities in funding per head makes a dramatic difference." Councillor Taylor also pointed out how Enfield Council gets less money than neighbouring boroughs in central London. While this borough receives £496 per head, Westminster Council receives money amounting to £917 for every resident. Opposition leader Terry Neville said that while he agrees with Councillor Taylor's attempts to gain more funding for the borough, he also said that his administration had been profligate with the money that they had. Councillor Neville said this council has been happy to claim credit for freezing council tax over the past 6 years, without ever acknowledging publicly that the freeze was financially supported by the government. Now that the subsidy is gone, they seek to raise it. The leader of the council will lambast the government for its reductions in grants, but the fact is that up to now there has been very little evidence of cuts at the front line. The council tax rise was passed by 33 votes to 21. The rest of the budget was voted through unopposed. I will give further details later on.
3 people accused of beating to death a young woman repeatedly lied to police about their movements on the night of the killing, a court heard. The body of Hamdi Jumala, 27, of Linnet Close, Edmonton, was found in the bedroom of a second-floor flat in the Gainsborough House tower block on the Aileycroft estate in Bush Hill Park on the evening of Thursday, September the 17th last year. Walid Ibrahim, 34, of Tottenham, North London, Magdalena Agathine, 21, of Highbury, North London, and Kinsey Adid, 20, from Hayes, West London, are jointly accused of beating Hamdi to death between 9:30pm on September the 16th and 8am the following day. Anthony Orchard, QC, prosecuting, told the Old Bailey that CCTV evidence and phone records proved the defendants were lying to police when they insisted that they were either sleeping or had already left the flat when the woman was killed. Mr. Orchard said that Agathine told police she had slept deeply from Wednesday night to Thursday evening. However, he told jurors police inquiries into the events that night revealed that Agathine's phone had made both WhatsApp and normal calls to a man by the name Jermaine Sylvester. At 3:05 and 3:35 on the Thursday morning, Mr. Sylvester spoke with Agathine. The first call lasted for 23 minutes, the second for 4 minutes. During those conversations, he says, she was drunk. She was repeatedly interrupted by a girl called Kinsey. A third girl could be heard in the background. This would be Hamdi, indicating she was still alive at 3:35am. A man's voice could be heard, and it sounded like an argument was going on in the background. The jury heard that after seeing a missed call and series of messages from Agathine at 7:26 in the morning, he called her at 9:39. She told him that the girl, Hamdi, had been rude to them and had argued with the guy, and that she and Kinsey had beaten the girl up pretty badly, the court was told. He could hear Kinsey in the background saying, "Yeah, we beat her up." Agathine added that Kinsey had thrown the girl to the floor and continued to punch and kick her while she, Agathine, had laughed. The court also heard that despite Adid telling police she had slept deeply in the flat for a period of 26 hours, from 6pm on the Wednesday to 8pm on the Thursday, the Adid phone was used on September the 17th to make and receive calls at 10:55, 11 o'clock, 11:15, 11:21, 16:19, 16:20 and 19:54. Mr. Orchard also told the jury that Ibrahim's account to police of his movements on the night and morning of the killing was a lie. Walid Ibrahim claimed in his interview that he left Gainsborough House between 5:30am and 6:30am on September the 17th, he said. This was the last time he saw Hamdi alive and well. CCTV shows Ibrahim left Gainsborough House at 7:51. Jurors were also shown CCTV footage from outside Gainsborough House at 9:20pm on September the 16th of a woman being attacked. A neighbour in flats opposite the tower block had seen 2 women fighting about 10 feet from her window. One of the women was attacking the other, the court heard. The attacker was on top of the second female. The second woman was pinned to the pavement by the attacker. The attacker grabbed the other woman's hair and banged her head against the pavement several times. The attacker grabbed the other woman by the hair and punched and slapped her several times. It is now accepted that the woman described as the attacker was Kinsey Adid. CCTV analysis shows the second woman to be Hamdi Jumala, Mr. Orchard told the court. All three defendants deny murder, and the trial continues.
I've got a lovely picture here of a lady who has only had 25 birthdays. That's because she was born on February the 29th. She's lived through 2 world wars and is a great-grandmother, but Minnie also has only had 25 birthdays. The bubbly and energetic woman who lives in Winchmore Hill celebrated turning 100 years of age on February the 29th. Minnie is a mother of 2, a grandmother of 2, and has a 3.5-year-old great-granddaughter. Jewish Cares Connect Southgate Centre, where she is a member, held one of 3 parties to mark the milestone. Before blowing out her candles, she wished for everyone to have a long and happy life. And she claims the secret of long life is to keep well and feel happy. She said, "Well, what can I say? I've had 1 birthday in 4 years, and the parties were a nice surprise. I thought the people here at the Jewish Centre might do something, but I didn't expect this much. I've lived a very long and happy life, though I'm not keen on being old." Her grandson, Brett, flew over from his hometown of New York to help his grandmother celebrate. He said, "I had to be here at the family party. She was up, dancing all the time. After a while, I had to sit down, but I think I saw her sit down just twice." Minnie was born in Haggerston to a French mother and an Eastern European father. She moved to Stamford Hill, where she lived with her husband Nathan for 43 years, until he passed away in 1982. While Nathan served in Gibraltar in the Second World War, she was evacuated to Leicester with their daughter Bernice. Bernice had travelled from Cyprus to be at her mother's party, alongside her brother Nigel. Bernice said, "She's a bit overwhelmed, but very proud of turning 100. She's very energetic and always on her feet and doesn't sit about. She never drove, but always stayed active."
Playwright Mark Day has found the funny side, if there is one, to life with a brain tumour in a new play which opens in Enfield. Brains, a personal story, is based on his own experiences since he was diagnosed with brain tumour in March 2013. Mr. Day is the creative producer at the Millfield Theatre in Silver Street, Edmonton, and the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield Town, and writes the annual panto designed to make audiences laugh. He decided to keep the humour in a play about his tumour, which he first started writing in coffee shops as he waited for treatment. More people under the age of 40 die of a brain tumour than from any other cancer, so I wanted to use this theatre piece and my personal experience to improve social awareness of the disease, he said. He had suffered 2 seizures in the months leading up to the diagnosis when he was 39, and suffered a dislocated shoulder during the second episode after falling off a chair at work. A third one happened on the day he was due to undergo surgery in hospital in central London to remove part of the tumour. Since then, he has gone through 36 sessions of radiotherapy and 6 cycles of 6 weekly chemotherapy to shrink the tumour. At first, Mr. Day wrote about his experiences for himself as an outlet for his feelings, but then his boss suggested turning it into a play. "I was looking for something to do with the talented bunch of actors I was working with," he said. "The show includes songs, but ultimately," said Mr. Day, "it is a story about his emotions." However, he said he also decided to lighten it with some funny things which have happened along the way. "Where possible, I have used humour to make the piece upbeat, with more appeal to audiences, he said. Humour played a part along my journey as I made certain observations, making sense of things. He said the sight of a group of people wearing hats made him laugh. Early on, for example, I was told that people with a brain tumour should wear a hat, he said. It was when I was standing on a fairly cold platform waiting for a train that would take me to my daily dose of radiotherapy, and I saw the majority of my fellow commuters wearing a hat, and I couldn't help thinking, does everyone wearing a hat have a brain tumour? Well, it makes you think, doesn't it?
A councillor who was caught playing Candy Crush while the authorities slashed millions from the budget said he was bored, adding he might do it again. Cockfoster's representative Michael Lavender was caught playing the game on his phone during Enfield Council's budget meeting as council tax was raised and cuts to youth services were passed. But when he was called out on his lack of attention, he said it was because he was bored by proceedings and that he was able to multitask. In a letter sent to the Enfield Independent, Councillor Lavender explained his decision to play the game was based on a promise he had made at a previous meeting. He wrote, I set out the shortcomings of council meetings and requested that unless proper democratic scrutiny was restored, I would promise to find something else to do in council meetings, and that is publicly what I have done. If Labour councillors considered I was treating them with contempt, then I'm glad the message has got through. This month it was Candy Crush. It may well be a musical instrument next time. Labour councillor Chris Bond interrupted meeting to draw attention to Councillor Lavender. He said it proves he does not care enough to even listen to a debate he was later going to speak in. It was disrespectful to the council, to the mayor, and to the people of Enfield.
Concerns have been raised about changes made to claiming disability benefits which have affected the lives of people in Enfield. Under the new Personal Independence Payment Scheme, which has forced those who need specially modified motability cars to get around to reapply, some have been told that they are no longer eligible, despite some having used them for decades. Lorraine Della, 62, of Dickinson Close, Edmonton, has received help for 25 years, but feels broken after being told she can't use it anymore. Mrs. Della has had multiple hip operations over the years and has arthritis and requires a walking stick to get around. However, the Department of Work and Pensions, or DWP, has told her she is not eligible for the scheme anymore. She is planning on taking the DWP to a tribunal over the decision, but it could take her 6 months to get her car back, even if she wins. Ms. Della said, I've never felt so broken. Devastated is not a strong enough word. I can't see how they think that I have got better. They say I can walk. That's news to me. They won't allow me to have the car I have used for 2 decades because I am able to plan a journey, but that doesn't mean I am able to execute it. This is a living nightmare. Another resident experiencing problems is Kathy Walsh. In December, Ms. Walsh was told that her application had been turned down. Ms. Walsh of the Ridgeway, Enfield, said her car was taken from her at the beginning of February, and although she has since successfully appealed the decision, it may be mid-April before she has access to a car. Ms. Walsh, who has the muscular disease dystonia, said, It is really badly stressing me out. I've had this condition since birth, so I don't know how they think I'm not eligible. The lady who assessed me seemed to know nothing about my condition. Regarding Ms. Della's case, a DWP spokesman said, Decisions on eligibility for personal independence payment are made after consideration of all the evidence, including an assessment and information provided by the claimant and their GP. The majority of people leaving the Motability scheme will be eligible for a one-off payment of £2,000, which will help ensure their mobility needs continue to be met. Claimants can appeal. The DWP have been contacted for comment regarding Ms. Walsh's situation.
The man at the centre of the Cycle Enfield proposals has reached out to reassure he will not be pushing ahead with plans before further talks with community groups. Daniel Anderson, the Cabinet Member for Environment, told the Advertiser that residents and campaigners have no need to fear that the council will begin work transforming Enfield Town into a cycle haven in the immediate future. People may have seen that Cycle Enfield in Enfield Town is due to be passed in April, he said, but that is not the case at all. No decision has been made. We have released the results of the consultation and we are currently reviewing it. The dates in April are only preliminary dates. Nothing is even on the table until such a time as we can look in detail into the feedback that was provided in the consultation. Between September and December last year, people were asked to give their view on two options for transforming Enfield Town into a bike-friendly zone. One option outlined was a two-way cycle lane in Church Street, separated from eastbound bus traffic by a broad stretch of landscaped pavement. According to the results, 30% of the 2,707 people who responded to the consultation supported this option, while 64% were against it. The other option was a two-way cycle lane in the centre of Church Street, with east and westbound traffic on either side of the cyclists. This fared worse in the public's mind, with just 15% supporting that option and 69% opposed to it. Although Helen Osman of Save Our Green Lanes campaign had voiced concern that in the face of such overwhelming public opposition, the council was set to push forward with the scheme, Mr. Anderson was emphatic. There are no plans to push forward until such a times as we have gone through the consultation responses in greater detail.
Children will benefit from art, dance and drama therapy after their school in Edmonton was awarded thousands of pounds in grant funding from the BBC's Children in Need appeal. Westlea School in Hazelbury Road is running a project to help youngsters with psychological and behavioural needs and has secured a £41,623 grant to employ 3 therapists to visit the 20 schools in the Edmonton Schools Partnership. The therapists will lead sessions in drama, dance and movement therapy in one-to-one and group sessions.
We've now reached the end of the first half of this week's recording. If you're listening on tape, please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2. If you're listening on memory stick, click forward to the next track.